What's up, everybody? Welcome into First Take on this Feel Good Friday, almost to the weekend. But first, we are going to get you set. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, Amal
What's up?
Aram.
My man. What's
How
up,
we
you?
doing?
How you doing?
I'm great. The
Yeah.
weekend, I'm feeling good.
We can't be the only ones who don't do something.
Do we
That's
wanna
right.
do something? Yeah.
Y'all got to come up with your own thing.
Yeah.
That's all.
One
That's
of
all.
these?
It ain't that.
Yeah,
It
I
ain't
like
that.
that.
It ain't that hard.
I like that.
It ain't that hard, y'all. See, that worked.
Yeah.
I'm proud of y'all.
Oh, thank you.
Proud of y'all.
Thank you for that.
wait.
Let's go. Coming up, the Sporting News released their list of the NFL's most hated players of all times. Wait till you guys see this list, and the guys have some big issues with it. But first, Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon is very optimistic and grateful for his new support staff in Cleveland, especially Robert Griffin III. Gordon saying this, quote, "He's the reason why I committed to Baylor in 2009. That's one of my best friends. It's not a mistake that my locker is next to his. He looks out for me as part of my support staff I've been mentioning. Guys I know I can lean on. I know he's a big brother in that regard." Meanwhile, Browns' new head coach Hugh Jackson is not into the waiting game. Jackson said he plans to announce a starting quarterback between RG3 and Josh McCown before the team's first preseason game, which I love, so we know the deal. Stephen A., so how good can the Browns be with Gordon and RG3 potentially?
Pretty much close to what they were last year, which is not very good. I think that Hugh Jackson is going to do an exceptional job. I think that the foundation between him, with Sashi Brown, with Deepa Dester, even though those weren't quintessential football guys, I think the elements that they're bringing to the table is something that can't be ignored. They're definitely going to be moving in the right direction. When I say that I think it's more of the same, I'm talking about in terms of results, Max. I'm talking about in terms of a win-loss record. Do I think they'll go 3-13? Perhaps not. More like 5-11, something along those lines. That is what I see. And I think that's being very, very generous, because when you look at RG3, there's a lot to be proven. As far as I'm concerned, he hasn't really been playing ball in 2 years. And so when you look at it from that perspective, along with the hit psychologically that he took, I think Hugh Jackson is the perfect complement to him. I think that's a plus. But at the same time, I don't know, because of the absence of weapons the Cleveland Browns have. They're not the same team right now. Some of the parts that you would like them to have, Josh Gordon is going to have to be that dude. We know that he's a stud. I think he's a Hall of Fame talent. But let's face reality here. He's got some issues. And don't tell me that when you are the Cleveland Browns and you are a team that loses Dante Whitner, Dwayne Bowe, Carlos Dansby, and all of these other guys, you've subtracted a lot of veterans from your locker room. By doing so, that puts more pressure on RG3, who has his own stuff to live up to, let alone trying to elevate himself to being that quintessential leader that you can feed off of, because he galvanizes and inspires the troops. Then we get to the issue of Josh Gordon, which is the reason we're asking this question to begin with, because without Josh Gordon, we wouldn't even be thinking about them. We'd be saying they're going to stink up the joint, they're going to be sorry, and that is that. But with Josh Gordon and the potential that he has and the chemistry that he had with RG3 in college, I can understand. But that was a long time ago. And, yeah, it's good that he's not hanging with Johnny Manziel right now, because Johnny Manziel, RG3 is clearly a significant upgrade from an individual, from a maturity perspective, than Johnny Manziel is. But this is the National Football League. This is the NFL, and this is a man's game. And the fact is that before he could think about ingratiating himself with his former collegiate teammate, the bottom line is simple. You got to ball, and you got to stay clean. And I think that's a lot to put on the shoulders of RG3 when it comes to Josh Gordon. I don't expect much. I know they can play, but I don't expect much. I'm thinking 5-11, Cleveland Browns. With Josh Gordon, I am praying completing the season once he comes back from his suspension, as opposed to getting himself in trouble again.
Look, if you're playing the odds, probably right. You know, you're not going to be a 500 team. I think they'll be better than last year if you're playing the odds. But the question is, because you can't say this about every team, if everything goes right for them, for example, the Miami Heat last year, you say if everything went right for them, they could be in the conference finals, and who knows who gets out of the conference. Everything has to go right.
Right.
You say, well, you could say that about any team. No, you can't. There are lots of teams about which you can't say, you know, you can say everything goes right, still they're not going to do anything. Some teams, if everything goes right. Now, why does this apply to the Browns? First of all, let's start with Gordon. The change has to come from within. It can't just be external pressure. Hey, you need to change, you need to change, you need to change. He has to initiate it. He needs to seek help. Now, he's hanging out with Johnny Manziel. That's a bad look, etc. But he goes to the team and says, I need a change. That's a very good sign. Even him hanging out with Johnny Manziel at a certain point, you say, and then Josh Gordon comes out and says, you know, I hang out with Manziel, but I want to be close to RG3. This is the guy. I see the way these two, Manziel's not a quarterback anymore, but guys go about their work, and I can be friends with this guy, which actually endears Josh Gordon to me. It means he doesn't forget his friends just because they're struggling, as the rest of us are kind of perceiving that as, boy, you're around a bad influence. Yeah. In his mind, he's trying to be a good influence on Manziel. I commend that. But he looks at RG3 and says, but he's had success in the NFL. I want to be close to him. So I like that. I like those indications that it's an internal change, at least that's being sought by Josh Gordon. Now, the question is, what can the team do? Stephen A. I start with the offensive line. The offensive line is the only part of the NFL, of the game of football, that affects every single other part of the game, right? Okay. If you have a great offensive line, it turns mediocre running backs into good running backs. It turns receivers into better receivers. It keeps their defense on the field. It makes their defense worse. It makes their secondary worse. It makes your quarterback better. So look at that offensive line, anchored by Joe Thomas, who may be the best offensive lineman in the game. I mean, he's in the conversation. At 31 years old means really he's still in his prime. Sometimes like left tackles hit their prime around 31.
All right.
Pro Football Focus has them as the 5th in their offensive line rankings, 5. So how does that apply to Gordon, to Josh Gordon, and RG3 specifically? Well, what can RG3 still do? Stretch vertical passing, stretch vertical yards. Same thing with Josh Gordon. I called Casey Joyner, the football scientist, this morning. Casey, am I crazy or can they do something? He said, Max, I think if they stay healthy, they have a chance to be a top 5 stretch vertical quarterback receiver combination. You put a top 5 stretch vertical quarterback receiver combination on a team with an offensive line that's in the top 5. Don't tell me they can't make the playoffs, because they can.
Well, you're blowing me away with this, because I'm not even thinking about Josh Gordon when you say something like that. I'm not thinking about him because I'm thinking about his talent, and I know that it's there. Can he get, if he's on the football field, can he get open against other corners in this game? Of course he can. He's Josh Gordon. But I do think you're bloviating a bit excessively about RG3. What the hell is this? I mean, you're acting like RG3 is fresh off of a good season, and it's just that the team is suspect. So because of that, along with Josh Gordon, we've got a reason to be suspect about them. We have a reason to be suspect about RG3. Now, I will confess that I do believe he's taken too many hits from the standpoint of a personal level, where people are attacking him like he was a criminal or a drug addict or something. That's not RG3. RG3 is a good dude in terms of that. Being mature enough to know how to conduct himself, doesn't get in any kind of trouble or anything like that.
Parents, military, like all that kind of discipline stuff.
He's to be commended for all of that. But RG3, the quarterback, remember, he was a running quarterback when he came into the league and was phenomenal as a rookie, scaring the daylights out of you as a Giants fan, no question. But then after that, he goes into Mike Shanahan's office. He determines that he wants to be a pocket passer. He doesn't want to go out there and use his mobility, his legs, his athleticism to make things happen. And he was a bit suspect. Now, we didn't like the extreme measures that Jay Gruden, the coach of the Washington Redskins, his former coach, went through in terms of dissecting RG3, talking about what he's doing wrong, 3-step, drop step, 5-step drop, reading through his progressions. And that's the excessiveness in terms of the details with which he highlighted the deficiencies of RG3 was downright insulting. Not because he was inaccurate, but because we hadn't seen a coach so publicly deride his quarterback the way that Jay Gruden had done at that particular moment in time. Having said all of that, Jay Gruden didn't appear to be wrong. The things that he was saying about RG3 appeared to be at least somewhat accurate. And so when you take that into consideration, I'm saying you go to Cleveland, and I said this, Max, before they acquired him and when they acquired him. Here's my thing about Cleveland. City's great. Fans are fantastic. All of that stuff is true. That cold weather coming off of Lake Erie, bro. My man, let me tell you, you call me whatever you want. Let me tell you something right now. I still have a hard time talking to LeBron. I still have a hard time saying anything to him other than hi and bye, because he left South Beach for this, for Cleveland. That weather. Listen, you could say it's different, but that wind and that cold coming off of
Still
Lake
got the
Erie,
chill in your
right?
body.
And the football field, at least the Q, the Quickens Loans Arena, is downtown. I mean, Lake Erie is right on the stadium is right on the water. I mean, it's coming fresh off you. I'm just saying.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
Listen, I'm saying to you, not for RG3, the quarterback.
Listen, sometimes I see these warm weather teams like the Chargers. I'm like, come playoff time, they're at a disadvantage. They don't have to deal with the elements. And that kind of like lack of adaptation to the elements maybe sometimes hurts them when they do have to adapt.
I feel you on that for most. But I'm saying for an unproven pocket passer
I want to talk about
RG3, that's my concern. Go ahead.
I want to talk about that. You're right. RG3 scared the hell out of me when he was a rookie. In fact, as a Giants fan, I didn't think very much of Washington as a team. But he was the most feared player for me as a Giants fan watching those games. I didn't fear any player in the NFL as much, forget about more, as I feared RG3 as a rookie. He was completely unstoppable. Now, he's not that same guy anymore. Injuries, lost half a step, and it's gotten into his head. And maybe you're right, maybe he went too far in the other direction and wants to be something that, he doesn't use all his weapons, or he's somehow caught in between. Whatever it is psychologically with him. The question with RG3, it's not like a guy, their previous, would-be hero, Johnny Manziel, where we'd never seen him do it on an NFL level. We just didn't know if it was there. We suspected it might be, but we didn't know. RG3 has already done it on an NFL level like very few have ever done it out the gate. I mean, he was already an excellent NFL quarterback as a rookie.
Can I interject
So it's
for a second?
in there somewhere.
Let me interject before I let you go on to tell you why I disagree with that point. I believe that RG3, the rookie, is entirely different than the RG3 who's gone 5-15 over a 2-year period as a starter before being benched last year. I think you combine that with them sitting him on the bench, not even allowing him to wear a uniform, okay, because they didn't want to put themselves in a position where he could get hurt and they'd have to pay him and all of this other stuff. That RG3 you're talking about is 3 years ago. The RG3 that has existed in the NFL since is an entirely different individual. Go ahead.
Agreed. No question. And that's why I'm saying the odds are they're not going to be 500. I think they'll be better than last year. I think you think that too. But they have a chance to be good. They have a chance to compete for the playoffs. And you bring up, Mike, you bring up the fact that as a rookie he's good. It has been several years already. He's not the same. Okay, that's valid. But now he has a second chance. And he's already at an age, given the water under the bridge, where RG3 might be looking at this second chance thinking, if I don't ball right now, I just become one of these retread guys. He's not there yet. There was a little competition for his services. Not enough, not a lot. They bought low. But at least the thought is still, look, maybe a change of scenery. This is it for him in terms of not being thought of as just a pure reclamation project, retread in the NFL. And physically, how much different is he? He's not as fast, but he's faster than most. He's still got a hell of an arm. He can still throw it down the field, especially down the field with some accuracy given the distance on the throws.
He's got a slide.
Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, who was Odell Beckham before there was an Odell Beckham in terms of his impact on the league.
We're talking about a Browns organization allergic to prosperity, even though we believe that they are heading in the right direction because I like what they have there in Sashi Brown, the Podesta, and
they
of course
run block pretty well too.
They run block pretty well because, again, that's true. Because with Duke Johnson, Isaiah Crowell before, the bottom line is they were running the football. Duke Johnson is still there. We'll see how effective they're going to be. But here's the thing. Max Kellerman, and I'll say this in deference to Dr. Phil, Dr. Max. It's lovely hearing you philosophize about RG3. It's really nice. Here's the question. You brought up everything but one important thing. Who you playing against? I'm sorry, that would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, that would be the Baltimore Ravens, that would be the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm talking about superior teams. You also forgot to mention the fact that Josh Gordon, they're all getting healthier. Josh Gordon isn't coming back until Game 5, am I right? Am I saying that? So that's 4. So this is a team. Let me get this straight. This is a team that usually loses anyway. And now this dude is going to be gone for the first 4 games?
So let's say when you look at the first 4 games,
what do you think is going to happen to RG3 in those first 4 games?
You're expecting 1 and 3-ish. I think they're going to protect him pretty well. If he wants to stay in the pocket, I think it'll be protect him pretty well. And by the way, if the protection breaks down, there are few better at getting away from pass rushers if he decides to run.
They may not.
The major thing is him staying healthy.
Actually, RG3 is not elusive. He's fast.
He's fast.
He's fast in the open field, but he's not elusive. He's not Michael Vick elusive.
However, that offensive line, like Manziel, who a couple of years ago, like, rushed for, he was the third leading rusher on the team.
He's more elusive than RG3.
But a lot slower.
Okay, but he's more elusive in terms of in the pocket. So what I'm saying to you is RG3 may not find himself getting sacked because the offensive line may protect him enough where he could get the ball loose, but it's not going to stop him from getting hit. And what about his durability? That is a huge question mark. So you got his durability, you got his pocket passing ability, you got the fact that he's reluctant to use his athleticism to be more mobile. Then you've got personnel issues.
You also haven't mentioned the defense, which ain't that good.
How about that?
Yeah, the defense ain't that good. You're talking about what is most likely to happen. I'm talking about the fact that there is tremendous upside here. For the reasons you mentioned, you're right. You know, if someone said push come to shove, are they going to win 8 games? I would say no. But if you're asking, could they win 8 games or 9 games, push for a wild card?
Hell no.
Yes,
hell
they could.
no.
That is
in the
entirely possible.
AFC North,
It's impossible.
I'm going to use the word impossible. There is no way. I put myself
Don't
on that.
sleep on a team with a good coach, an excellent offensive line, and a vertical stretch passing threat.
Listen. The third point that you made is what I find highly questionable. Do I believe Hugh Jackson's a good coach? You're damn right I do. Didn't stop Oakland from going 8-8, and they were better than the Cleveland Browns team he has right now. That offensive line, obviously, it's good, but I recall a team with an elite offensive line in the Dallas Cowboys. How did they do last year? Don't get me started. Philadelphia Eagles had a decent offensive line. How did they do last year?
Top 5, maybe.
Let me tell you, I'm just saying, there are plenty of teams with good offensive line, but what happened to them? So don't give me that. Oh, wait, and then a vertical passing game. You're acting like it's a given.
No,
it's
I'm
not
saying
a given.
there's a chance.
There's a chance they could make a splash.
Oh, stop it.
There was a chance that he
AFC
could have gotten
North.
out of the Eastern Conference last year. Everything had to go right, but there was a chance. Can't say that about everyone.
There's a chance my head.
I didn't know this was highly questionable.
There's a chance my headline will grow about 3 inches forward. I doubt it. It's going to happen.
Happened to LeBron. It happened to you. It happened to LeBron.
There's a chance. There's a chance. Okay.
They're trending in the right direction, that we know. AFC North, very, very tough division, though. AJ, nothing but a number, according to Drew Brees. He says he can play very well into his 40s. Do these two kind gentlemen agree, though? That is the question when First Take returns. Just getting started.